Hello, welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit miserable, life can be a little bit dark, so we are here to bring you as much light and as much joy as we possibly can. Once again, I'm Bradley, and via the magic of editing, I am joined by Stu because it's 6 weeks holidays, life gets in the way, so we are recording separately again. So, not much in terms of preamble or anything like that this week. So, jump straight into it, I think would be the best thing to do. And yeah, for me, it's a bit of a DLC special this week. Starting off with DLC to, I think, one of my favourite games of last year, and one that just seems to keep on giving, and that is the Star Wars DLC for Powerwash Simulator 2. And what you've got here with this is pretty much all the same stuff you've got. It's almost a difficult game to sort of like review DLC for, because if you've played the game and you love the game, you know exactly what you're getting here. You know exactly what Powerwash is. You know what all the levels are, and the DLC is just themed levels of popular franchises, essentially. We recently had the Adventure Time one, which was really good, really colourful. This one is your Star Wars. So Dr. Spock can take his blue police box to clean an AT-AT. Obviously, I'm being facetious. It's an ongoing thing, if you listen to us, you know, it's an ongoing thing where I confuse Star Wars with everything else because it annoys the fans. But yeah, essentially, you go round and you clean up various famous areas from Star Wars. There's a Millennium Falcon, and there's like so much more. And each of the levels, you know, you've got quite smallish levels to ease you into it, to sort of like some giant levels that feel like the later levels of the main game. Loads of Easter eggs there. If you're a big Star Wars fan, plenty of Easter eggs there. Which is really good, and this is what these are for. You know what's there, and being able to go around something like get up close and personal with some of the things you might only have seen from afar in the films or the games and things like that. But sort of like really getting into the nooks and crannies of a Millennium Falcon is really, really cool. And if you're not a fan of Star Wars or even Adventure Time before it, the core mechanic is worth it alone. I remember, like, when you played the main game, I'm not a fan of bonds, but I was happy to clean one. And it's the same with this. I think Star Wars is fine. I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars, but I had a great time going through all the levels. And there's a few bits I recognised which are quite famous, and obviously there will be some bits furthermore, sort of like deeper down the iceberg, so to speak. But yeah, it's another really brilliant add-on to what is already a fantastic package. I'm still hoping, and I think I've said this before, I'm still hoping that we get a re-release of all the Powerwash Simulator 1 DLC added to this at some point and make this the main game moving forward, because I just think the controls, everything's better about it, but there's still some fantastic levels I'd love to go over again on this. And again, this is a great package. This is like $7.99, sorry, for this one, which is slightly more expensive than the Adventure Time pack before it. But there will always be deals down the line as well. But yeah, another wonderful add-on to what is already an absolutely wonderful package. Next up is a piece of DLC, which is also standalone, but also weirdly not standalone. It's a weird one. So bear with me with this one. It's Company Heroes 3 Final Stand. And what the game is, so we'll go through this initially. What the game is, it's action RTS, that's the main thing. And what they've done is they've taken the action RTS style of the main game and turned it into kind of like this wave-based horde roguelike experience. So instead of going through all these story missions, what you just get is almost like a tower defense type thing where you're invaded by waves of enemies, and you gain resources naturally, and then you basically have to produce units of very incrementally advanced things, and you use that to go into battle. And each wave you pass, you get a bonus upgrade, which could be like automatic redeployment of certain troops. It could be better artillery, better vehicles, all those kinds of things, which will aid you along your way. But as you get further, the waves get harder, and there's boss waves, and there's bigger rewards for all of that. And it works really, really well. It is a fun game, and I went into it, and I did have to refresh myself with playing a bit of the main game first to understand, well, to basically reacquaint myself with the game. And it does have online co-op, and it is single player as well, but I only played the single player version of this. Now, what's really weird about this one is it is standalone, so you don't need the original game, but it also isn't standalone because it needs the client of the original game to be able to play this. So I downloaded this because I've not, played Company of Heroes 3 for quite some time after finishing the main campaign. So it's kind of dug down in my library. So I thought, okay. Played Final Stand as a standalone game, installed it, started the game up, and then it basically wanted to install the original game, but not the entirety of the original game. Just a section of it, which was a client, and you had to then loaded up the main, like, the DLC. Then it booted up the original game's basically front menu, and I had to then get into the Final Stand DLC via that. And it's just really confusing. I don't know. I don't get what they're going for. I like the idea maybe it's integrated into it, the main one, if you are someone who's playing through, or you buy it as a package brand new with the main game, and it's just there. But as someone who wanted to play the DLC this time round, the weirdness with having the original game having to load up its client, but only a section of that client to allow me in, but then still give me all the options for the main game, which then would have to install, and it's a really weird, convoluted way of doing it. And I don't see what the benefit is of not just having this as a standalone game. It's come out and it's still like 24 quid, so it's not cheap, but it's obviously not a full-priced game at the same time. And it's, it's just a really weird situation for what is a fine game. It's absolutely fine. But I'm looking at this, and two things come to me is, who's buying this just as is, as a standalone, without having played the original game? And secondly, why would you need it standalone? Just stick it as DLC and do it as DLC at a cheaper price, maybe, or just release this as a Company of Heroes Final Stand is its own game, a Company of Heroes 3.5 or something like that. It is just a really weird one where it's a DLC that doesn't need the original game, but does need the original game. I don't know what happens if you don't own the original game. Does it still load up a client, or do you just get this? Does it recognise them? It's just, a really weird opening to a game where I just wanted to get in and play. As I said, I did end up loading up the original game as well, just to re-familiarise myself with it. But there could have been a better tutorial added to it. There's a few different things. Like I said, it's not a bad game. It's just one that the initial impressions of it are just, I'm not sure what you're going for here. But once you get through that, the wave-based combat is really fun. It's quite intuitive to play. Sending your troops where you need to send them. Battling, they auto-battle, and you just basically make sure they're around where they need to be. Resupply, getting new units out there, that kind of thing. And it does get progressively harder, and I was overwhelmed after a while. But I think the initial onboarding, once you're in the game, like the actual gameplay onboarding, really well done. Eases you into things before sort of like letting loose. It's a fine game. I'm just not 100% sure who I could recommend this for, or at what point. But if you enjoyed Company of Heroes 3, it's worth a look, maybe. If you're not a big fan of RTSs, then, you stay away from it, really. That's that. Only short again this week, which we do apologise for. But hopefully back to normal next week with some games to play, maybe, hopefully. Who knows? With that, I'll let Stu do his bits to edit this to some kind of coherent thing, or just exit us and that'll do. Whatever you want to do, Stuart. I'm just trying to make it as easy as I can by shutting up and not talking anymore. You know me, though, Stuart. I talk. I talk and I talk, and I don't know how to exit, so goodbye.
Well, you finished in the end, which is the main thing. So we're out of that, and we're into my section. Hello, everybody. Yep, as Brad said, sorry for the strange setup this week. We had to record separately because of life things. I don't like life things. I prefer lying down, doing nothing, pretending to not exist for a while. That's the most comfortable way to get through the day for me. And then occasionally surfacing and playing some games. I've been playing a lot of games recently, just none that are, reporting on worthy. Probably because, mostly because they're just stuff that I've already talked about in passing, or, they're quite old or whatever. There's just not really been much peeping its head over the parapet or parrot pit. But that changed this week. Well, a couple of weeks ago. And now the embargo is up, as I've been playing Truxton Extreme, which is a extremely belated sequel to the arcade / Mega Drive / PC Engine game that came out in about 1990, I want to say. It was long time ago. And I never saw Truxton, or as I knew it back then, Tatsujin, which is the Japanese name for it. I was really excited when I saw pictures of it as an early Mega Drive release in the gaming magazines. I thought it looked absolutely exceptional. And it's a very good looking game, the original. It's quite superb in its own style. It's a funny one. I'm trying to think how to describe it, and the best I could come up with, it's like demons. It's okay. Think like Doom and Quake, where demons have kind of come into our reality and they've sort of fused with, anthropomorphized forms and also cybernetic forms. It's kind of like that, but with spaceships. It's not the biomechanical horror of the R-Type franchise or Cross Multiply or games like that. But it does have a kind of... It's like if you infused a robot with the soul of a demon, or, the spirit of a demon or something like that. It's a funny way, I can't really describe it very well, but that's what the original game looked like, and it gave it a bit of an edge. Now, I got this on the Mega Drive. I don't think I ever owned it. I might have done. I can't remember. It's, over 30 years ago. Give me a break. But I played it a lot, and I was never that stricken with it. Now, as you know, by now, I'm not a massive fan of vertical shooters, and this is an exceptionally difficult one, the original. So it's kind of like, it's a little off-putting to people who aren't massive fans of the genre. But, I persevered with it, played it for quite a long time. It's okay. I know the longer things go, and the longer things have existed, it's much more, part of societal etiquette to think of them as classics, but I'm not really like that. As I keep saying, I'm not nostalgic. I'll just judge things on their merits, no matter how new or old they are. It's my possible only superpower, if it can be called that. It's not very an exciting one. I wish I could be Iceman or something. Now that would be brilliant. It would be cool, in fact. The original Truxton, the original Tatsujin, it's okay. The problem I had with the original game is I didn't find the variety in weapons to be good enough. You've got a forward-facing bullet attack, and you can replace that with like a green laser attack that does effectively the same thing but doesn't have the same spread. So it's a little bit more concentrated and does a bit more DPS, but it's not vastly superior or inferior or brilliantly balanced, I even want to say. So the two main shot options aren't superb. And it's got a lightning bolt weapon, which automatically locks on. Now, the thing with that is I always found it really underpowered, even when it got to full power. So it was okay, but like at that time I was playing, a lot of the Aleste series, and really got to love Gunhead and Superstar Soldier and Final Soldier, that trilogy on the PC Engine, which are similar type of games, i.e., the way that you collect things, the way that the bombs work, the way that scoring happens, that sort of thing. And I thought that they were all superior, quite considerably superior to Tatsujin. So I was never a massive fan. I know it has its defenders, but I thought it was a good game. It was just where the needle just nudges past bang average into good, but it's like hovering, twitching, like wow and flutter on one of those, record player tests. It's good, but it's not exceptional. Anyway, what does the sequel do? As I've been talking about a 36-year-old game for 5 minutes. Well, the sequel has to move with the times. It had to make it more accessible so that there's actually going to be people playing. And it had to deal with using modern graphics and using a widescreen format, so 16:9 aspect ratio, which can be a tricky situation for vertical shooters, because obviously that the vertical space is the important space, more than the horizontal in terms of reaction. Well, they've managed this absolutely superbly, and you never feel like it's a compromise or unfair or anything like that. And the enemy attack patterns work very, very well coming in from the sides. You don't feel like you're being shortchanged. I think that's really helped by the fact that you get these speed pickups like you did in the first game to go faster, but once you've collected them, you can cycle through the speed that you want. So let's say you pick up, 3 speed tokens. You can then switch between moving at speeds 1, 2, or 3. Well, no, because there's the base speed, so it'd be 2, 3, and 4. But hey, let's not get picky. So you can cycle through your speeds to assist, and you really need to do that because there are times when the setups, it's like a classic shooter. So the ones I already mentioned, Raiden, all that kind of thing, just prior to the kickoff in, Bullet Hell. So it's good, decidedly different from Bullet Hell still. And it uses that horizontal width really, really well, and the enemy patterns lean into it, and it works, in a way that seems very intentional, which is great. So that's really good. It's also got more weapons to choose from, so there's a bit more variety involved with that. I'll come back to that in a bit though. The graphics are... Now, I watched the Digital Foundry review of this yesterday, so Sunday the 2nd of August, as I'm recording on the 3rd. And they really seem to like it. They did kind of soft chewed it a little bit to talk about where it excels without talking about any major downfalls or anything, which is fine, and also without saying that it's the best game ever. They were kind of keen on the graphical presentation. I wasn't so much, mainly because that thing that I spent a long time talking about at the beginning of this review, which is the way that they're like demon-infested cyborg-type creatures, has sort of slipped away a little bit. So the previous game had this lovely way of making them feel like proper flying weapons, but also made them feel quite demonic. And I mean, this is all emphasised by, the fact that your explosive, your bomb, your screen-clearing bomb is a skull. It's got this demonic heavy metal style element to it. It loses a lot of that heavy metal mentality, the sequel. It feels a bit more generic in terms of the way that it's presented. It's got some really nice backgrounds. I just found the enemies themselves a little bit underwhelming. They're very well animated and they've been nicely drawn, but they lack a bit of character for me, especially as things like, a really good one is some of the boxes of pickups, like you shoot the box to reveal a pickup, and they are skulls with lit eyes. Now, in the original game, they had mouths opening and closing. It reminded me a lot of like Alien Crush on the PC Engine. That sort of style. It's a very, very similar aesthetic to that. So it's just lost a little bit of that character, in my opinion. The levels themselves are good. They've been designed well, I think. And the only an issue with that is, for me, they're a bit long. I prefer shooter stages to be kind of quickly done, because it keeps this feeling of pace and urgency. And because there's a huge... The big factor in playing vertical shooters is that you're going to have to replay them a lot to get good, you know? So you want the stages to be tight and compact and memorable, or I should say easily memorized, so that you can rattle through them quite quickly when you're getting good. And these are a bit long. They're a bit more adventure style rather than shooter style. So a little bit too long for me, but that's a minor niggle. Coming back to the shooting, that's where my big niggle is really. I just don't think they've really nailed the feeling of power well enough, and the variety of weapons. There's a homing shot, which is called White, that for me is just like way superior to all the other shots in it. And it doesn't seem to be very much in the way of necessity for the other attacks. And I think, exacerbated by the fact that one of the new gameplay mechanics in this one is that you build up a bar and you can hold down a button which drains this bar and increases your shot power temporarily until the bar's drained. It has a side effect and benefit of producing these like gold blocks that give you extra score if you're a high score chaser. But its primary method of destruction is, its primary method of use is to increase the DPS and higher destruction. So when you start using the white bullets, they're so good and so accurate, and they lock on so fast. And when you use this boost bar thing, that's so effective. You're just like, I don't really want to use any of the other weapons. This one's too good. So you can use the others. That's fine. But for me, none of them seem to get close to the utility and variety usefulness of the white weapon. But as usual, you have to go over the specifics of why things fall short of perfection. But that doesn't mean that I'm saying it's a bad game. It's not. It's very good. It's a very entertaining game. I would probably go as far as say, I would definitely go as far as say it's better than the original. It just has a bit more variety. It's less punishing. I'll speak about that in a second. And it has a slightly better design and a few more modern ideas in it that really help. In terms of the game options, what's really good is it has a few modes. One of them is a practice mode where you can't die. It's got a story mode where you play individual levels and then choose to go to the next level, or you replay separate levels once completed, and that's a difficulty reduced mode that's not as difficult as the arcade mode. And then you've got the arcade mode, which is hard but not as brutally hard or unfair as the original game. It's still very, very hard, and difficulty ramps up majorly as you're going along, but it's not as unfair, I feel, as the first game, which was just a memorization task. And even then, it was just crazy to play. So it's a more balanced game, and the difficulty along with it. So yeah, I would say if you like that kind of old school shooter and you want to see one touched up, built up, bringing up a load of new ideas and looking good, it's just my aesthetic preference that says it's not brilliant looking. You have a look at the videos, you may well love it. To me, it looks a bit too much like a mobile game in its design style, but hey, that's just me. But yeah, it's a very, very solid game, good fun, not crazy expensive. And if you like that era, that very small, short era of extreme extremely good looking sprite based vertical shooters after the likes of the simplistic kind of 1942, which that's no shade, it's great game, but the sort of later ones, like the later ride-ins and the stuff that started coming out on the better consoles, and before you started getting into bullet hell, then it's definitely one for you to pick up. Right, and that's it. So, as Brad said, apologies that it was a short one again, and apologies that we've not been able to record together. It's just been life. No. And life is life. So, apologies, but as usual, follow us on all the socials. Make sure you're checking out our content on the website. Join us for chat on Discord, and until next week, stay safe and stay sane.